Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1237A, and today's date is March 24th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Russia is Ready to Split Away from the International Banking System. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, today the market, it was down. We know the healthcare vote didn't go as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what we're seeing right now is that the illusionary economic data is completely going the opposite way of the hard data right now. And those good times after the election, they're coming to an end. And we're still continually seeing the fluctuation in the market. What we're seeing right now is that things are rapidly disintegrating right in front of our eyes. Now, core durable goods with like washers, dryers, the big ticket items, plus there's also military equipment included in this. And if you strip that out, you can see core durable goods. Well, it's a complete disaster. And what we've seen is for 21 months, we've seen a huge decline of core durable goods, except for February, where all of a sudden it shot up. And what we're seeing right now, it is heading right back down. And it looks like it's a one-off dead cat type of bounce. And we're seeing that things are starting to disintegrate very quickly. We're seeing that the soft data and the hard data, they're going their separate ways right now. And if we look at the manufacturing PMIs, we see that things are rapidly falling apart. Both manufacturing PMI, they're disappointing. They're tumbling to the lowest level since before the election. Simply put, the soft data is converging back lower to the dismal reality of the hard data. And we see manufacturing PMI, services PMI, and all of it, it's starting to decline once again. Output has slowed dramatically. And we can see from Market, Chris Williamson, chief business economist, the U.S. economy shifted to a down gear in March. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. Things are rapidly deteriorating and falling apart right in front of our eyes. And when we look at the entire situation, we need to understand that this system has been deteriorating, and the acceleration of the deterioration has been faster and faster and faster. And as we approach the summer months, the fall months here in the United States and around the world, we're going to see things rapidly change. And this is why, for a very long time, we've been telling everyone to get prepared for what is coming. Because we have to understand that the central bank, Trump, the entire system, everyone knows that the system cannot continue on. I mean, if you really think that we're in a recovery, if you really think that the economy is strong, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because the system is ripe to come down right now. We're seeing a lot of the similar signs that we saw back prior to 2008. And I don't think it's all going to come crashing down in a split second all at once. The economy, most likely, will have some type of correction, maybe 10, 20%, where the market does come down. And of course, what the central bankers really want to do is they want to step back in with QE, and they're going to try to pump it up once again. And as the market comes down, we're going to see a lot of things, and I'm talking about the real economic data, the reality of what's going on here. It's going to start to come out. And for this first drop down, they're going to have to blame someone. And I believe that will be Trump. He's the perfect scapegoat. They will blame him. They will then pump it back up by creating currency out of thin air, telling everyone that they saved the day. But they know this is temporary because the rest of the world is going to look at this and say, okay, we've been through this before. It hasn't created jobs. We're just putting countries into more and more debt. This is not going to work. And they need the second wave to be something completely different. So when we see what is coming, the first wave here will be blamed on Trump and whatever economic policies that he puts forth. That's what they're waiting for. They just can't do it today or tomorrow. They need to wait a couple of months to make sure that they have enough information to shape the narrative to blame Trump. Then once they pump it up, they can say that the economy is still weak because of what Trump did. The financial institutions are weak. And the next wave most likely will be some type of an attack, a cyber attack, like we've talked about before. Nothing has changed here. A lot of people think that things have changed. They think that, since Trump came into office, everything was going to be fixed, everything was going to get better, and everything was going to be okay. No, the crash is still going to happen. Now, if Trump brings it down before the central bank, it makes no difference at this point because the economy is still coming down. So no matter which way you look at it, we're still headed to the same exact point in time where the economy comes down. Now, if Trump brings it down, most likely he's going to try to maneuver this and blame this on the central bank. If the central bank and the deep state bring it down, they're going to be bringing us to war because they don't want to be blamed for this. So we can see there is a battle going on right now. Now, other countries, they realize that this entire dollar-centric system, well, it can't be sustained. They can't depend on the Western banking system. This is why, and we reported on this many, many times before, the Russian-China BRICS system, they've been working on a plan to sever ties with the international banking system. And right now, Russia, we knew this was in development. We knew they were doing this. We knew that Russia and China and many of the other nations were dealing outside of the dollar. Well, right now, Russia has successfully developed and implemented an alternative should it be excluded from the international banking system. And this is according to a recent report. As far as Western sanctions go, by far Russia's largest vulnerability is in its banking sector, which for better or worse is tied to the hip with international banking. If Russia wishes to maintain the status quo, there's not much that can be done about this dependency. But shortly after sanctions were announced in 2014, Moscow set out to prepare for the worst-case scenario, being cut off from the worldwide international financial telecommunication system, which is the SWIFT system. And what is the SWIFT system? Well, the SWIFT system allows for fast, secure, allegedly secure, internationally financial transfers. And what Russia realized and what China has realized, and this is why they've been duplicating everything that is here in the West out to the East, they realized that if we got into like a war, if something should happen like sanctions or they're cut off from the banking system, they needed a way to survive. And this is why they set out on the task of creating a separate system. Now, I do believe that they're creating this system also to become maybe the next reserve status or handle a lot of what the West is doing right now when the system comes apart and falls apart. But Washington and Europe, they realized that if they actually cut Russia off from the SWIFT system, it would be a complete disaster. And we can see that European Central Bank policymaker Ewald Notwany warned against kicking Russia banks out of the SWIFT payment transfer system as part of tighter sanctions on Moscow. But this hasn't stopped Europe and Washington from threatening to pull the SWIFT plug. So we can see right now that Russia is prepared and they are ready to deal outside of the SWIFT system. And China has created many different markets and they've created their own payment system to deal outside of the Western banking system because they knew one day they were going to need this. Now, they don't spend all this time and all these funds to create a separate system if they think that this will never happen. They do it on purpose because they realize what is happening with the dollar. Think about this. Out in the Middle East, where they thought they were going to have complete control of all the Middle Eastern countries, even including Iran, where they would have control of the oil system. The only reason we are out there is because they have oil. And they want the oil to be sold using the dollar. If the oil dried up in the Middle East, they would have no use for all of these countries. What would they have there that they would need? Nothing. The entire system is based on oil. That's why the United States central bankers, the deep state, wanted the entire area so they can control the flow of oil and make sure that every country was purchasing it using the dollar. Now there's problems because we can see that things are rapidly disintegrating out in this area. And they know it. They realize it. That they didn't reach their goal. They didn't reach their goal of having everything, which tells us right now that things are going to rapidly fall apart. I know they're going to continually try to reach their goals, but they're not going to be able to do it. It's a lost cause at this point. The people in Libya, the people in Yemen, the people in Syria, and the rest of the area, they're all rising up. Everything that they tried to do is failing right now, and we're going to see a lot of these countries start to deal with oil sales not using the dollar. And this is where the problem comes in, because the rest of the countries, well, they're not going to be able to keep the dollar in reserves anymore because they won't need it. And they will start sending the dollar, the currency, back to the United States. And this is what happens when the currency comes back to the United States. There's more dollars in circulation, which means we have inflation because the value of the dollar decreases. And we can see already that the petrodollar at this point in time is completely doomed. And this is why they've been preparing for this collapse scenario that is coming. And it is coming. Do we know the exact date? Well, if we did, we can make a lot of money because we know exactly when everything was going to come down. We can short the market and we can become very, very wealthy. We don't know the exact date, but we can see all the economic indicators. We can see all the signs. We can see where this is all leading. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure all this out. Just like the individuals approaching 2008 realized, wait a minute, these subprime securities are garbage. Most of the people in these subprime securities, they've defaulted on their loans. And a lot of them own 1, 2, 3, 4 houses. These are garbage. No matter what the rating agencies say, no matter what the Fed says, no matter what anyone says, they're garbage. Even if the public doesn't believe it, because they're still believing that the rating agencies have their best interests at heart, no, they were garbage. The same thing is happening today. The economy is garbage. Doesn't matter what numbers they put out there, doesn't matter what statistics they manipulate, and try to convince everyone the economy is garbage. Why do you think all these retail stores are closing down right now? Why do you think all these individuals are losing their jobs? Why do you think people wanted a change? It's not because the economy was so strong and everything was fantastic. They wanted this because something's wrong. Many people can't put their fingers on it, but they know there's something not right out there. And when everything starts to fall apart and crash down, everyone's going to go, now I get it. I see what's happening here. Now, in the past, when Obama was president or if Clinton got into the presidency, the corporate media would have been like, oh no, it's not them. It's this other country, this other group that did this to us. But since Trump is in office, the corporate media, you could see already, I've seen many reports telling us that the economy is not as strong as it should be. Things are really starting to fall apart. The Fed is out there, and Janet Yellen is saying, well, the economy is a disappointment, but we're going to raise rates anyhow into a very weak economy. I mean, this is telling us right here and now that they are ready and prepared. They have their narrative. They have their story. They know exactly how they want this to play out. Does it mean their plan's going to work perfectly? No. But they know this is how it has to go down. And they're preparing and getting ready to bring it down. You need to prepare and get ready for when it comes down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.